You are now listening to Obtain, Achieve, Thrive, Hustle with Metro. Come take the oath.
Yeah. It's your boy Metro North, aka Robert Downey Jr., aka El Megalodon, your neighborhood villain. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna continue this episode, picking up where we left off, where I was getting out of SRG and going back to general population in Corrigan. So Corrigan is New London County's. In Connecticut, is New London County's county jail as well as a prison. So there's a lot of, mixed situations in there. I don't know how to explain it. Like let me explain it like this. If I was on my 15th year of a 25-year sentence, I'm in, A block or B block, right? Which is kind of like a intake block. I might get a celly that's fresh in. I'm talking about he just got arraigned 2 days ago. He got a bond and he could get out at any day. Like, that's the type of crazy shit that was going on in that jail. On top of SRG being, upstairs in that prison as well. So, I get back to population now. I'm able to kind of move a little bit freely as far as making phone calls and taking showers when I want to, when I'm at rec. As soon as I got up out of there, I called my peoples, let them know I was out of the program. I ended up running into Ramon again in there. This time I seen him, though. He was on a walker. And if you remember, I was seeing how he was one of the first people that really looked out for me when I was back in McDougal, when I was only like 3-4 months in. He left me with a few items that, I could have either flipped or kept. And, he looked out. But this time, from that time to the time I'm seeing him now, it's been a few years. He went home. So I see him and I noticed that he's in a walker, right? I'm talking about tennis balls on that shit, everything. So now I'm like, what the fuck? So I wave him, I flag him down, I wave to him. So I'm like, I'm gonna holler at you when I come out for rec. So during rec, I haven't spoken to nobody on their door in a minute, so it kind of felt weird talking to him on his door. But at rec, I'm asking him like, yo, what's good with the walker? Like, was you straight? So he tells me, basically, and to be honest, I'm remembering all of this as I'm telling it because I haven't thought about this in a long time. So bear with me. But he tells me basically that he was doing a robbery with somebody. I'm not gonna mention that they name, but they basically robbed the wrong person. Like, they did a robbery, homeboy was strapped, and he was strapped with something. You know what I'm saying? He had something, he had that fire on him. So when they upped it on him, they, they underestimated who this person was. So he went and he upped his on them. And my man Ramon got hit up. Now he's literally in a walker for the rest of his life. And I'm like, damn, and he got like 12 years. So I'm like, damn, son. So that was like kind of, I seen a lot of people come and go and then come back. He was one of the first people that I personally knew that I was locked up with doing this one bid, went home, and then came right back with more time than what he did before. And that shit messed with me because I'm like, damn, bro, like, why you ain't just go home and chill? Like, why you ain't just go home and go to work? Why was you out here trying to stain people? Like, you trying to, rob people and steal and do all of this crazy shit. And now you back in jail, handicapped, and for 12 more years. Like, he locked up right now as we speak. I'm about to add him on my Securus communications app. See what's good with him. But I see him in there and seeing the condition he was in, and I was just looking at him and thinking like, at this point I got about a year and a half left, maybe even less if I get parole. Let me just tighten up. Let me just brush up on certain things that I've kind of not been, practicing with, and all of this because the whole time I was in SRG, I didn't write no music because I didn't want to write something and then they shake my cell down and then they keep me in there for an extra month. Anything can happen in there. So I was in that block with Ramon for about a, maybe a day and a half. Next day, they called me down to the AP room. So I'm thinking I'm either gonna go to Cheshire CI or Brooklyn CI. Neither. Neither. Like I said before, I was praying that I didn't go to Osborne. Guess why they sent me? Fresh out of SRG, you going to Osborne. Now, it felt like the closer I got to the end of my bid, the more things were happening to kind of disrupt my routine and, get me to fall deeper into the system, which is the prison system. I mean, so they sent me to Osborne. I'm like, fuck it. Like, like I said, I got a year and a half, maybe even less left. Let me get in here and get up out of here, man. But if you've ever done time in prison, you know Osborne, the stories about Osborne and the history behind that jail, and it was just not a good place to be. And it just so happens that I get there in the midst of them shutting down uh J&H block, I believe it was. It was basically like kind of like the annex I was in. It was a building separate from the main building in the prison, but it was a lot of like freedom in those in this building, in this smaller building where you were able to move around more. It was kind of like a small community within that prison community, and they were shutting that down because the pipes were bad and a lot of people were getting sick from drinking the water and consuming food that was cooked in that water. And it was a lot of things going on in that prison where they had the news up there, they had the governor come, they had so many things going on in that prison while I was there. It was kind of like making my head spin because I already heard the bad rumors, and now I'm dealing with coming to a supposed to be a level 3 prison to essentially level 4 because we were always locked in our cells at this time. There was barely any rec, and when we did have rec, there wasn't much to do during rec. So you kind of just hopped on the phone, hopped in the shower, and then went straight back in your cell if you didn't have like gym. And they had two gyms. They had the big gym and then the small gym. The big gym was where like you could go work out with the gym equipment, and the smaller gym was just a basketball court or whatever. So like I'm sitting in there in the bullpen waiting to go to the block, whatever block they was gonna send me in. I forget what the block name of the block I was in was, but I think it was G block. They moved me to G block the first night I'm there, and they moved me in the cell with this strange looking dude, man. And looking back at it, it was like it was a bad situation to be in, being in the cell with that guy. This dude looked like a carny, like somebody that just works at a carnival. Like he just looked crazy, bro. He had fucked up hair, curly mustache, didn't look like he took care of himself. He smelled crazy. His fingernails was long, and I was just so uncomfortable in the cell with him because, like I said, I got my routine, and at the time, I'm kind of getting back on my feet as far as getting things that I lost when I was at SRG. Like they took my combination lock from me, they took a couple extension cords from me, and didn't return them. So with those items that I just said, those are very crucial items that you need in a level 3, especially like to plug in your TV, to plug in your fan, to lock your personal belongings in your locker. So I didn't have any of that coming out of SRG. So I'm trying to trying to get back on my feet, but this dude's making it real hard. I couldn't go to commissary right away to order these items. So I kind of, asked them, yo, let me plug in the extension cord. Let me plug my TV, just my TV into the extension cord. I'll plug my fan into the wall, and we could just let me rock out until I get, my extension cord. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Basically, he was just being a dickhead. Basically, he was just being a dickhead. So I said, all right, cool. I compromised. I didn't put my TV on my tray. I put it on the foot of my bed and just rocked out that way. I just didn't want, I just had to sacrifice. I wouldn't watch TV if I was laying down, unless I was laying on my stomach, which was never when I was in prison. So that was one thing. Like, he was just acting real weird. And then every time he would leave the cell, he would lock up all his shit, his hot pot, just a bunch of things that he was doing. And then number three, he start he started talking insanely crazy. Like, he was talking about, I don't even want to say it because this is YouTube, but he was talking about doing unbelievable things with his mom, um, you know, essaying people, just a bunch of crazy shit. So in my head now, I'm starting to think, is this dude testing me? Cause I'm a laid back dude. I'm in the block with my man Ian and a few other people I know from the street. So I'm like kind of confiding into them, like, yo, what should I do when we are at rec? Like, what should I do? I don't want to put my hands on this dude or do anything that's gonna get me in a situation where he could hurt me. Cause you gotta be realistic. If this dude is insane out of his mind, those are the type of dudes that'll kill you when you sleep. Mind you, I'm sleeping next to this guy. Pause. I'm sleeping on the top bunk, so he could be up when I'm knocked out, doing God knows what, touching me, poisoning me, anything. So I'm telling my boys, like, yo, like, what should I do? So they're like, yo, just write to the counselor and see you wanna move. So then I'm writing. Why the same weekend I get to the prison, we go on lockdown for a week. So now I'm stuck in this cell. None of my requests have been, answered. He's starting to really do things where now it's really getting me mad. So in Osborne, your bunks do not have ladders on them for some reason. So what you would have to do is you would have to step on the toilet and hop up because you don't want to step on the sink. That's disrespectful, but I would hop on the toilet and then jump up onto my bunk. Same thing getting down, but I would just jump straight to the floor when I got off my bunk. I would usually use the bars because in Osborne there's no doors, it's just bars. Kind of like an old school prison, like a Alcatraz, you know what I mean? But he had his TV and everything on that side of the bunk for some weird ass reason. So one day I hop up. He goes, "Yo, what the fuck did he say?" He said something real like slick out his mouth. Something about when I jumped up, the wind from my body, something of that nature, like it was bothering him. So I said, "Oh, word, my fault. I did the usual respectful thing that you should do if somebody, says something that you're doing is bothering them." So then I'm up there for probably like an hour. I'm laying down and shit, writing a drawing or something. I jump down because they're bringing child to us because we on lockdown. This nigga goes, "Yo, when you jump down, yo, the wind, like you kind of like vibrated the whole cell in the wind." So then I just look at this nigga and I gave him this look. I barely give people this look, but I gave him this look like, yo, if you really want to go there, we could take it there. And then he stopped talking to me after that day. So, we finish out the lockdown, we come out. I literally write about four to five requests. I need to move out of the cell. This guy's testing me. I know you guys don't want to be filling out the paperwork for somebody getting, critically or severely hurt in here. Let me just, move out of this cell. To be honest, I felt like I was never gonna get moved. I felt like it was gonna have to go to the extreme for me to get moved. So we get off lockdown, and I'm on the phone one day, and this is like a little side story. I'm on the phone one day, and I'm facing, my back is to the block. I'm facing the door to get out of the block. So there's a door, and around the door is these big windows, kind of like church windows. So I'm looking out, and I see this young man walk past, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, that looks like my brother. And I haven't seen my brother since 2012 at this point. It's 2016. So I'm like, that look like bro, like, but nah, he wouldn't be in here. But I have not heard from him in a while. He was writing me when I was in SRG. One of the last letters that he sent me said, if you don't hear from me after this for a while, I'm probably, you know what I mean? Because he had a little legal situation going on. Long story short, it was him. So now I'm like, I need to get wherever he at. Even though I don't know it's actually him, I want to see if that's him. So 4 weeks go by. They finally answer my request. The counselor comes to see me. He goes, what's the problem? And I'm just basically like, yo, this dude is making it hard for me to live in there, and I only got a little bit of time left. I'm coming off of a 5-year bid. I just don't want to be living with this guy that something happened or I make a decision that I'm going to regret. So he ends up doing me a solid and moving me to D Block. Now, D Block was kind of a block in Osborne where you just go because you just, finishing time out, basically. Like, you just go there to just finish your time out. You could get a job or whatever. They moved me on the block. They moved me during commissary time. So it's probably like maybe 11 something in the morning, maybe even earlier. They moved me in 89 cell. I'll never forget this. They moved me in 89 cell with this dude named Joe Fauché. White dude. Funny ass white dude. One of them white dudes, like, he drink Budweiser. You know what I'm saying? Smoke wild cigarettes. Probably drive a F-150 from like the 90s, maybe even the 80s. But he was cool, like real cool. He was a real solid dude. So they moving me in the cell with him. I'm moving all my shit in there. I see the dude Sonny that I was talking about previous episode. I see him. I see a few other people that I know. So I'm like, all right, I'm scoping out the scene. I'll go in the cell, drop my bag. As soon as I drop my bag, all I hear is bro like, is that Bag Boy? Cause that's what he used to call me, Bag Boy. And that's an inside joke from motherfucking Bossing Up. Cause the nigga who plays St. Louis, I forget his name, from Players Club, he was in Bossing Up. And he was calling Snoop Dogg Bag Boy and shit. So I hear that and I'm like, oh shit, that's bro. I could see it in his eyes. He like, yo, this shit is mind blowing how we both in the cell block right now. Cause that man raised me, you feel me? Like he poured so much life into me to where like I get my swag from him, I get my lingo from him, I get everything that I do from him. So him seeing me for the first time and then during my bid, that when I went away, he ain't have nothing going on legally. He was just like, in shock. And I could see that shit in his eyes. And man, listen, he paraded me around that block to everybody that he was cool with. Like, yo, this is bro, like, hold him down if I'm not around. So now I'm like, shit, I'm about to finish off my bid with bro. And he on his way out because he had 18 months and shit. He was about to TS. So like, this nigga, me and him chilling every single day. Nigga, we going to Child, we going to Rec. We in there with my man DeLance. He cool, he OG and shit. Like, we chilling. We going to visits together. So that shit was peace. So now I'm getting down to the nitty gritty. Like the last few months of my bid, my bro ends up going home like December time because he TS to Mom Duke's crib. So now I'm left in there. It's just me, my man Lance, and the dude Joe Fauché end up leaving. Then they end up moving this kid from Bridgeport on my cell. Another dickhead. He was one of these dudes. I forget exactly where he from. I don't know if he from the Greens or Marine. He from one of them hoods. But and I really forget his name. I'm trying to think of that shit. But he was one of those dudes where when you go out to a program or you go to a visit, he going through your shit. He looking at your pictures. And I mean he'll gossip about you. Oh yo, this nigga be doing this, that, and the third, and the second. He one of them type of niggas, right? And he was claiming he was in jail for scamming and a gun or some shit, whatever. But they moved him in the cell with me. So we was cool at first, cause you know he from the town, he from the turf. So we start chopping it up and shit. He a funny nigga. So like I noticed that he did a lot of betting, a lot of gambling, always on the poker table. And I noticed with people like that, just like the one dude Polo, they bring a lot of shit back to the cell. They bring a lot of drama. They got niggas coming in my cell, and at this point in my bed, I'm coming to the last few, last few miles of my bed. I don't want niggas by my door. I don't want niggas coming to the cell to talk to you. Take that shit to the day room. And I feel like anybody who do time the right way will agree with me. You don't want your celly bringing drama to the door, because next thing you know they shaking this shit down, and one of us or both of us are gonna go to the box behind some shit because you don't know what I got and I don't know what you got here. You dig what I'm saying? So, he was going around the jail gossiping. There was a shooting back home, and a few people got hit up. I'm not gonna go in detail with it, but this was like probably a year prior to this time. So he was going around this prison telling people that he drove the assailants to do this. So mind you, he's telling these, stories to people in a prison filled with guys from the neighborhood that this incident happened, and someone lost their life, and a couple of other people were wounded in with this situation. It gets back to the guys from the town. So now people there's a lot of whispers going on about this guy. He's my celly though. So once he figures out, because I never told him where I was from, he just knew I was from the port. Once he finds out that that's the neighborhood I'm from, or that's the neighborhood that people associate where I'm from with, he kind of got quiet. He stopped talking to me as much. He stopped calling me by, he stopped saying Jay. He would just say Bunky, Selly. Like it was just his demeanor changed towards me, right? We went from being like, cordial and cool to we barely would speak, and at this time I was the barber in the jail, so I was hardly in the cell, and I was doing AA. I was doing all these other programs because I'm like, nigga, I'm on my way home. Let me just get up out of the cell as much as I can. Long story short, with this dude, my man Quinn comes to the jail. Now Quinn is my brother. He's currently locked up again. Free my man Quinn. There was rumors going around about him for a long time when, throughout the duration of me being locked up with him, where they were saying, it was a lot of suspect things. And I used to always tell Quinn, like, you need to figure that out and, put that shit to rest, because you don't want that, stuff being on you even when you come home. This guy was one of those guys that was spreading those rumors or whatever you want to call it. Now, when he seen Quinn, I don't know what their relationship was, because I met this dude in prison. I didn't know him from the street. But when he seen Quinn, it was kind of like beef. Now, he knows that I'm cool with Quinn because he seen me and him, chopping it up at Rack, chopping it up, outside or at Child, wherever we was at. And Quinn, wherever I was at and Quinn was around, he was right by my side, basically. So now he really felt like, damn, I was talking to this dude, telling him certain things. He might be going back to these guys and telling him. So now it's like real, what do you call it? Like tension, basically. It's crazy the way the universe works, because All of this stuff was going on, and Quinn kept saying, "Yo, I'm gonna beat him up. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that to him." And I'm telling Quinn like, "Yo, chill." Crazy way the universe works is they end up moving us, right? My side of the block, because the way Osborne's blocks were broken down was there was a B side and there was an A side. Quinn was on my side, but he was on a top tier. So when we moved, Quinn ended up going to the kitchen worker block, and they moved my whole side of the block to the old death row block. So everyone kind of split up. I didn't want bro getting in trouble, so him getting moved was kind of like, I bet he over there. Unfortunately, we not in the same block anymore. But if we could avoid a conflict, I'll go with whatever decision, whatever emotions go. I'll go through those motions. So that shit kind of dead it. They ended up moving my celly to another block too. So he ended up going to the working block, like the maintenance workers, the people that make the prison mattresses and all of that. He ended up moving to their block. So now all of us are split up, and I'm in the death row block. So now I'm a few months like by my parole date coming up. So I'm gonna fast forward. So we go to the death row block. I'm in the cell with this dude named Ian Live, right? From Bridgeport. Cool nigga, dreadhead, Gazelle's on. Cool older dude. If I was like 24, 25, he had to be like going on 40. So we kind of like, was chopping it up, laughing and joking and shit. And he like, yo, where you from? So, same situation, different person. We all start chopping it up. I tell him where I'm from. He like, oh yeah, I'm from over here. I used to cut hair at Soka's and da 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 on the Ave. So me and him got real cool. We got real tight. We started like we started giving names to everybody on the block, like inside jokes, because we used to always be talking, and our next door neighbors used to always be ear hustling. So we started just giving certain people names and having these codes that we were talking. And my parole day had came up, so I go down there and shit, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. He ended up saying a prayer for me and everything like before I went. And he was one of them dudes that cuss when he pray, like, yo, look out for my nigga God. But I go down there, right? I think this was probably February. It had to be February because it was still cold out. And basically, I go down there, and for those who have been up in front of parole, they basically just want you to be like, yeah, I committed this crime. Yeah, I'm a piece of shit. Yeah, I deserve to be in prison. But this is why I feel like you guys should let me out right now. So you at the mercy of these people. I go in there and I say everything that they didn't want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So they tell me, nope, nope, nope. Go back, finish whatever programs you're doing, and we'll see you in the summertime. So I took that shit and rolled with it, like whatever. Fast forward, still in death row. At this point, I'm like close. I'm probably 5 months from going home. So I'm kind of like fuck parole. Like if I gotta take this shit to the door, I'll take it to the door. Second parole day comes around. Now I've finished the programs that they asked me to do, because you get court appointed programs and shit like that. If you know, you know. So I got a few tips from the big homies and the OGs in the jail. So I went in there, and this time I said, kind of what they wanted to hear. I talked about how I was, super, super, super duper reckless. I didn't care about nothing. I was just gang banging and running the streets, and I was a piece of shit. And, I've grown and evolved into this, young man, and I'm ready to, go home and get my shit together. At first, they was trying to give me the third degree, like, oh, you just got in trouble, last year for SRG, and you know, this doesn't look good. You getting tickets, you catching, 2 or 3 tickets, so close to your parole date. What were you thinking? So I told him, I said, listen, I understand how that looks, but if you look up until from when I first came into prison to that time that I caught those tickets, I never had any problems. I never gave anybody problems. I never been written up. I never got a ticket. Nothing. The situation that happened, I was in my feelings about it, and I reacted instead of thinking about it. Basically, I was just like, yo, I reacted instead of actually logically thinking about the results of my actions. They give it to me. They like, all right, we grant you parole. But at this point, I got 4 months left, maybe 3. So they give me a date. They go, you're gonna go home, June 16th, 2017. I'm happy to the motherfucker. I got a date that's not in September. So I go back to the cell. I'm cooling. I try not to like act too excited to give it away. Like, I got some good news when I was walking back from the parole hearing. So when I get back to the cell, tell Ian Live, like, yeah, they gave me that shit. You heard? Like, I'm out June 16th. So a couple days go by and shit. And for some reason, I just felt like there was this weight on me. Like very, 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 very heavy weight. And I don't know why. Like, I was short tempered. Almost ended up, hurting this young nigga from the town who was, running around the jail, starting bullshit with my name in it. So I ran down on him. Niggas like, yo, chill, 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 and all of that. Same day, I get a VI from my shorty, and I wasn't even expecting her father to come. She usually would tell me, like, yeah, I'm coming to visit this day. She comes up there. As soon as I walk in the VI room, I see her eyes as red as the devil's dick. Pause. Like, look like she been crying. So I'm like, yo, what's up? So we sit down. She just crying. So I'm like, nigga, I just got some good news a few days ago. Now, like, what the fuck is going on? She like, yo, Mike's dead. So I haven't really gotten into who Mike is in this story, but for y'all though that who know me, y'all know like my man Mike, aka Shane, aka Liv, aka D Wave. That was my brother. Like, he just literally came to see me the last time I went up to parole, and me and him was up there joking. This is my right hand man. This is who I, sold drugs with, who I used to run around wilding out with my freshman year of high school. Like, I met him through my brother Ja. So I'm like, get the fuck out of here. She like, yeah, somebody killed him. So this had to be like one of the craziest situations, because a year before that, we lost M Easy, kind of in the same situation. Somebody, wanted to buy something. Niggas ran up on him, and you know what I mean? They try to rob him or whatever the situation is, and the shit go left, and somebody ends up losing their life. So now I'm like, damn, bro. M Easy, now this nigga Mike. So I'm like, no wonder why I kind of been feeling like, kind of weird. Like, I just felt like something was wrong. I just couldn't pinpoint what the fuck it was. And I felt like it was because of that situation. So, we finish out the VI. I go back to the block, and I'm just sitting there on my bunk thinking like, this shit changes a lot, because the letters that me and him would send back and forth was a lot of business, a lot of getting his brand off the ground and helping me, get my brand off the ground, and coming together and just doing a lot of business together, because we was in the streets together. And I wouldn't have wanted to do business with anybody other than him, because I know I could trust him. We broke bread before. We've done, deals before. Nothing legal, but I just knew that out of all my boys, he was the one I could trust besides Ja. So I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking about the last visit we had, and all of this shit, and I'm emotional, but I'm holding that shit in, and that shit hurts to hold in when you lose somebody that's that close to you, because he was literally the only homie that came to visit me the whole time I was locked up. He would come up there, and we'd be up in there laughing and joking, and he used to always say, him and my man Jai used to always say, yo, you don't even seem like you in prison, bro. It sound like you somewhere up the block and you just can't leave the crib, bro. He said you sound they always used to say you sound like you in the best of spirits every time we speak to you. And that's how it really was, though. I was always high spirited when I was in there, because I knew once I was out of these shackles, it was over. But like losing him while I was locked up, that shit really fucked me up. It really fucked me up. On top of that, Mom Dukes was sick, and I didn't really know how bad her situation was. So it was like, God damn, I'm about to come home, and then I gotta come home to my man gone and M Easy gone and all of this, fucked up shit. So I'm working in the barbershop, like I said. One day, counselor calls me down to the AP room. So now I'm like, oh, that's them papers. You know what I mean? They call you down to the AP room to sign them papers. But let me tell you how crazy this shit is. I get down there, they like, yo, you got a detainer. Now, every month, I think it was every like 6 months. Every 6 months when I was in prison, every single prison I went to, I always checked to see if I had any detainers, any warrants, anything. Check my scores. Never once, and I wish I still had the papers, I threw them out. But never once did I ever have a fucking detainer the whole time I was in jail. So I'm confused, because I'm like, how do I have a detainer when I've been in prison almost 5 years and no one has ever said anything? I've never gotten no paperwork, no legal mail about anything. Oh, it's $151 fine. What the hell? What do I need to? Why do I need to pay $151 fine? Oh, it's something that the court is making you do, and if you don't pay it by today, you will not be eligible to leave on the date that parole said for you that you can leave. I was pissed, bro. I was so mad that I picked up the phone right then and there. I didn't even ask the counselor. I just picked up that office phone and I called my brother. I called my brother immediately. And he was kind of like shocked, because when I had called him, it didn't say, this is Securus and press one. It was just a straight phone call straight through. So I'm like, yo, bro, I know he fresh home, so he's in no position to come cough up, $100 and some change. So I'm like, bro, you gotta figure it out for me. They saying I can't leave on the 16th if I don't pay this $151 fine. He go, what? Fine? By the grace of God, he ended up making it happen for me. And they paid it the next day. So that pushed my date back from June 16th to June 21st, I believe it was. So now I'm pissed, because I'm like, I had it in my head, nigga, the summer's about to start. I came home the first day of summer in 2017 after I paid that fine, right? And I want to talk about that last day. That last day out of 1,800 or 600 days, I don't know how exactly long it was. But that last day felt like a fucking dream, because I went to work, and it's crazy because the last people's head I cut was this dude named Blink, right? I cut his hair and he asked, because he heard I was going home. He said, yo, what you doing with them uptowns? And I left him them uptowns. Next person got on my chair was also from Bridgeport. I forget their name. Trans person. Motherfucker had me do their eyebrows. They said, don't touch my head, just do my eyebrows. And I was just like, this shit is crazy. But I went to work like regular, went to chow, went to rec, worked out as if nothing. Like it just felt like it wasn't real. After you spend so much time in there, you go through so much shit, you kind of like, I don't believe that I'm going home. I won't believe that I'm going home until I'm in that van on the way back to my town. So I spent that last day like like a regular day. You know what I mean? I called everybody on the phone. Certain people I didn't tell that I was coming home. Nothing. I was just, you know, kept it regular, kept it normal. But like certain people that didn't know I was going home the next day, like I left my TV to some people. I mean, to somebody. I left, a lot of commissary and shit behind. But I didn't go to sleep that night. Me and my celly in live, we just stood up all night, just talking about like what he was gonna do when he got home and how I need to stay focused and never come back, and just having these conversations about not coming back to prison, because him and I seen people literally go out there and come right back as if they was just rushing to get back in here. And it's not a good feeling, to see somebody that you probably was rooting for, like happy to see them, get their freedom back, and then they come back into the same jail with the same niggas in the same block. That's a horrible feeling. And I can only imagine how they felt being in that situation. But I spent that last day like as if it was any other day that I was doing in there. And I didn't go to sleep. I stood up all night, and it was like I couldn't lay down. I literally sat up the whole night on my bunk with my man in. I went from the bunk to leaning up against the wall to sitting in the chair to sitting on the toilet to fucking like just I couldn't sit down. I didn't want to lay down, go to sleep, and then wake up, and I was still in there, and it just turns out it was just a dream. So I literally didn't sit down until one of the COs came and handed me them bags. Like, yeah, yo, get ready. You out here at 5. Man, listen. The feeling of walking through that cell block, right? And it's crazy because it was the old Death Row block. So it was bars. I'm all the way in the back too, so I gotta walk through the whole tier to get out of there. And just walking through there, it was surreal because I'm like, bro, I finished this shit. I'm done. I'm finished. I still had another battle ahead of me, but I got through the hardest part. One of the hardest parts, I will say. I got through it. Like, not too many people go to prison and come back bigger and better. A lot of them come back worse, mental health, not themselves, just another person. I came back like, oh man, like resilience. That's all I can say, like resilience. So when I'm walking down to the AP room, I still don't believe it. I feel like I'm dreaming. I'm like, damn, is this shit real? Am I really done? No more counts, no more lockdowns, no more shitting with my shower shoes, no more curtains. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I'm really about to be out here, out this bitch. It started really sinking in when I stood in the bullpen with like a few other guys. I stood in there for about an hour, so like around 6. That's when we hit the road and we left from Osborne CI and we headed straight to Bridgeport County. And that whole ride, I looked out the window the whole time. I didn't look at anybody. I didn't speak to anybody in that van. I looked out the window the whole time, and I was just like, nigga, I'm back. I started just getting like real excited. Little did I fucking know, once we got to Bridgeport County, I would be in the bullpen for another like 4.5 hours. So I'm in that bullpen. Once we get back, I'm seeing people coming in to start their bid. And I'm just like, y'all remember that shit 5 years ago when I was in the bullpen coming in fresh in, and there was people and these other bullpens just staring at me, shaking their head because they're like, man, he in for the long haul. But I stayed in that bullpen and let everything just start like sinking in. Like, yo, listen, yeah, you got 5 years parole, but you got this. Like, you ain't coming back. You not a jail nigga. You not a moron. You not an idiot. You not a bum. You a good nigga. You got a good heart. You've evolved into something that's 10 times better than what you were when you walked in these doors. Like, I just kept telling myself, like, yo, it's on. It's lit for me. Let me tell you, like I said, they had me in there for about 4.5 hours. When they released me, they didn't drive me over to parole. Parole is right across the street from Bridgeport County. It's right across from the AP room. They told me to walk. And it felt like I had sea legs. I'm walking across the street. I got my property bag with me. And I'm just breathing. I'm like, oh man, I miss this. I'm looking around. I'm looking at the cars. And I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous because I'm like, bro, I ain't been out here in so long. 5 years? That's a long ass time. You know what I mean? I went to high school right across the street from where I was standing. And in that school, people told me, you gonna end up across the street at that jail. They wasn't lying. But they also didn't consider that I would make it out even if I ever did touch them walls, that I would make it out. And once I got out, it was like, I walk over to parole. Who the first person I saw, and I saw him yesterday, my nigga Killer, aka Kuran. Now I knew him for years, and he was also with me in McDougal when I was up the way. And when he seen me, we both just started smiling. He said, yo, you home? I'm like, nigga, I'm home. Stayed up in that parole office for about 45 minutes, and my bro came to pick me up. And once I got in the car with him, all that jail shit was gone. Like all of the jail mentality that I had, the institutionalized version of me, all of that shit just was out the window. It was like I was back, bro. We spun the block. We went and got me some clothes. He brought me to his new spot because he wasn't at mom crib no more. I took a nice little shower, and it was just like, I'm back, bro. I'm back. And I was so like, and I was in such disbelief that I made it, because I'm not gonna say I was doubting myself, but it was like, yo, to do all of that time, like talking about it right now, I'm getting that feeling again, where it was like, I just kept thinking, a nigga just did a half a decade. And even though I was on parole and shit, you couldn't tell me nothing. I came home, I was driving, but I did things that weren't too critical to send me back. You know, I drive and had a few drinks here and there, because on special parole is zero tolerance. You can't do shit. But even though they had that parole shit hanging over my head, I felt as free as ever. Like, I felt as free as ever. I didn't care about the other shit that came with my criminal history. Nothing, because 2 months, 3 months after I came home, I got a job. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I got a job. My first day was my first day of that job was the day Sway came home. I mean, the day after Sway came home. So it was like I was doing very, very, very well. You know what I'm saying? And I will say, like, that journey, that chapter in my life, a lot of that shit replays in my head every day. Every single day. And I didn't realize that the time that I didn't realize until like me hitting my 30s, that the time that I spent in prison were critical years that I really, really missed. Like, when you 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, those are the years that you're learning how to be financially responsible. You're usually, if you went to college, you're usually coming out of college or in college. having experiences of young adulthood, paying bills yourself, um, getting your first apartment, shit, getting your first car if you didn't have a car before then. Learning all of these things about life. Like when I came home, I didn't know how to do taxes. I didn't know what a 1099 was or a W-2. I didn't know any of that because I never had an actual job. I was a hustler. I was just a nigga that hustled and was funny and shit and was just a reckless nigga. So I started thinking about all that shit and then saying to myself, I'm gonna learn how to do this adult and shit, even though I'm 5 years late. Into because let's keep it a buck. I'm 5 years. I went in at 19, coming home going on 25. I still have the mind, not the mind, but like I don't have the tools to be a young adult, right? I only know how to be an adult, an imprisoned adult. I only know how to be a jail nigga adult, basically. That shit sound crazy. But I only know how to be an adult in prison, right? Which isn't hard. You just gotta fucking stay out of trouble. Keep your head down. Stay out of trouble. But in the street, as a black man, a young black man, I could get into a situation just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it was like I started thinking about all of these things. I'm like, yo, this is a part of low key. This is a part of life that I didn't consider. Is all of the shit that I missed out on being in prison. But luckily, I have a good support system. My brother, my girl, my brother's girl. A lot of people, help me. Like my brother and them, they helped me file my first, taxes when I came home. They showed me, how to do it online and all of that because I was out of the loop. All I knew was I was home and the possibilities were endless despite all the stipulations I was under. Because being on that special parole shit, they had me under so many stipulations that if I wiped my ass sideways, I was going back to jail. And I fucked up when I first came home. I got a job, then I got another job, right? I got a job at this place called Nero, where basically they just hire niggas a fresh home to go remove snow and landscape and shit. Sway came home, he needed a job. I got him a job at the spot with me. Now, I had no idea that they was going to put us together. But we on the same removal team. Our supervisor just so happened to have the same parole officer him and I had. And this guy is one of those guys where he's like Sam Adams, Samuel L. Jackson in Django. Like he wants to please these parole people, right? Oh man, so he would go in there, brag about how he's supervisor at the job and he has X amount of parolee niggas up under him and they all doing a good job. One day he goes in there, he mentions me. Then he mentions that I brought somebody else on board on the team. Right? This parole officer, she's not stupid. She puts two and two together. So she kind of did some crazy slick shit, right? She don't let me know because she knew for a while before she confronted me about it. But what she did was around Christmas time that time, she calls Swade into the office and she confronts him. Oh, I know that you doing this. I know that you doing that. Mind you, she's not saying, are you? She's saying, I know. This is where I learned how they do it over here at parole. She's like, I know that you're working with this nigga. I know that you guys are driving. So she's basically fishing, right? She's saying, I know, but in reality, she just wants you to confirm by, admitting, yes, it's true. What does this nigga do? Fuck a poker face. He just said, all right, yeah, you got us. You got us. He might as well just been like, yo, come from behind the car. They got us. Mind you, I'm going up in there smiling in this woman's face, poker face on like a motherfucker, right? But she know everything. So this day, I guess whenever that happened, I'm at work. I got a Secret Santa gift from one of my coworkers, which was it was a bottle of Patron. What I do, first thing I do is I send this shit to Suede on Snapchat. Bro, we lit. We lit this weekend. No response. Matter of fact, they opened the message. Whoever had the phone opened the message and never responded. I get a call on my way home from work from Mark saying, "Yo, they took bro phone and they put him on a bracelet." Next day, I get called into the office. Again, I got my poker face on. I'm acting like all shit, like everything good, all everything is in order, and that should be. This parole officer, she chopping it up with me for like a good 5 minutes, and then her face just changes, and she goes, "I know that you've been working with Suede, and that you're in contact with him on a regular, and you know that that's against your stipulations, and I can actually send you back to jail for this." So at this time, I'm like, I'm nervous, but I'm also trying to justify this shit by saying, "Well, we working together. We not hanging out." She goes, "I don't give a shit." She goes, "I don't give a shit. It's against your stipulations to be in contact with your co-defendants." Again, I'm like, "But we're working." She's like, "I don't care." She said, "You guys," she said, and I'll get this to her. She said, "I would understand if you referred him to the job without any contact with him and you guys worked at the same place just on separate teams. But you guys are driving to work together, no license. Neither of us had a license at the time. And you guys are spending the whole shift, which could be between 8 to 15 hours together." So I go, "Well, it's not like we plotting on reoffending or anything. I just thought it was cool if I got him the job and he had something to show you some pay stubs." Like, looking back, it was some stupid shit, but I was just trying to get my man on. I was trying to get my man on his feet. You know what I'm saying? He was stuck in the crib with his moms and his pops. They wouldn't let him leave. And if we wanted to do something like go to a show or something, he used to have to sneak out, act like he was going to work. And it was just a lot, you know. And I'm like, I'm 20 something years old. I ain't living like no little kid no more. I ain't sneaking around doing shit. And I'm going to be living like the way I want to live, even though I'm on special parole and they, zero tolerance and they try to send you back. But long story short, she slapped me on that bracelet. So me and bro both on a bracelet. And at the time, we used to run around the same places. So we used to have to like be like in what's that movie? Casino, when they used to have their girls on the phone, and then when the feds hang up, they hop on the phone and be like, "Yo, meet me out here." That's how we kind of was communicating at that time. So we wouldn't end up in the same place at the same time, which eventually did happen. We went over to one of our mutual friends' crib. I'm pulling up, but he's leaving. So I'm like, "Bro, you gotta fucking daddle, because if they look on that GPS and see me in the same spot, it's over." You heard? But all of this shit, bro, that I've been through, and this is this is where I'm gonna conclude this whole story. Um, all of the shit that I've been through, it left me with paranoia, PTSD, um, a very, very, very high tolerance for what's the word I'm looking for? Just suffering. Like I could undergo a lot of bullshit, but not for too long, right? But I also got zero tolerance for bullshit from this situation too. And I made it out, like I said. And sometimes I still be in disbelief that I made it out. And the fact that I even made it on parole without going back to jail, even though they try to send me back a few times. But no matter what I went through, what I'm gonna go through in the future that's connected to all of this shit that I've been through, it never changes me for the worse. It always changes me for the better. I've been home a few days ago, made it 9 years I've been home. So I've been home longer than I was in prison. Which means I succeeded, because success to me is an opinion, right? I've succeeded because I've managed to stay home, and with all of the shit that doing all of that time put on me, I did not let it make me a bad person. I didn't let it defeat me. I didn't be like, you know what, y'all win, whatever. Send me back if you want. Nah, I always try to fight it, and I watched a lot of people that I know personally go to prison and not make it out. And, they got out, but what I mean is they don't come back the same way that they went in, or they don't become better or evolve into something better. I feel like I did my bit the way I was supposed to. I avoided fights. I avoided bad situations as much as I could. I made some lifelong friends, family. Been in a lot of situations where I left a great impact on some people. There's one thing that I did leave out is I designed a lot of clothes for people when I was in prison. And that's what I mean by like leaving a great impact. Like I worked with a lot of people in prison off the books. And I feel like no matter how many people out here have something bad to say about me or want to gossip about what I did when I was a child, make me seem like some type of bad guy or a predator or whatever, it has no effect, because what I show y'all in real time right now, today, what I'm showing y'all is that everybody could change, right? People could change. It's not easy, but if you're really dedicated to putting things in the past and reinventing yourself and becoming something great and having a story that is triumphant, if you're really dedicated, you can change. A lot of people let the system defeat them. A lot of people let this shit swallow them. Pause. And it's easy to do that. It's harder to become something greater than what you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 15 years ago, 16 years. It's harder to do that because no matter what you do, people will always compare or refer back to when you was a piece of shit. Cause I always say I was a piece of shit. I was an asshole. I've been saying that shit since I was like 15. I knew I was an asshole. And I loved being like that because I didn't care about how people felt about me. You know what I mean? I didn't have no kids at the time. I ain't had no responsibility. So I was just a piece of shit. But now that I'm older and I'm raising a daughter and, I'm living my life, it's for the most part the way I want to live. I just learned like that wasn't the way, but that's not who I am anymore. I've evolved into something greater than just being a little piece of shit. You know, I just hope that when people hear these stories and hear my story in general, and it motivates them. I love when people say like, "Yo, you motivated me. You did this, you did that, and it made me do this, and I got better at." Like, I love that shit because I understand now in life that I want my legacy to be, something that people could really be like, "Oh shit, I want to be like him." A lot of people don't think about their legacy. And I've spoke about legacy in prior episodes of this podcast, but I just want people to see that you could go from being a little piece of shit to something great. You know what I'm saying? And I know I've been talking like, yo, I'm the villain and I've become a villain. That's just a part of the motions that I'm going through right now, right? I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself saying I'm a good person, but then I'm like, I'm a villain. No, this is just part of the motion that I'm going through right now. Eventually, I will get back to my true form, which is the good guy, but as of right now, nah, a lot of people don't deserve my respect. A lot of people don't deserve my support. So I need to be a little bit more reclusive and reserved and keep certain energy for certain people. You know what I'm saying? But I hope y'all really enjoy these stories. There's gonna be way more stories about the bid and the people and the situations. I left a lot of things out purposely just so I could, get through like the gist of the bid and everything. I'll go into deeper details and in these little other situations. And even like we're gonna talk about like me being on parole and moving the way that I was moving on parole because I feel like a lot of people should hear these stories. A lot of people should hear my story because this shit is like, everybody's life is like a movie, but my life is crazy, like for real, for real. A lot of funny, a lot of good times. I'm not gonna lie. It's not too many bad times, not too many bad experiences. Most of my life has been good experiences because of the way I have this outlook on things, right? Something that I might look at like, oh man, that was pretty great. Somebody might be like, man, that shit was whack. But I just hope y'all enjoyed this shit, man. It's been another episode of O.A.T.H, where we obtain, we achieve, we thrive, and we always gonna hustle. But like I said before in the last episode, No Country for Weak Men is available right now. Shoot me an email at metronorthmusic@gmail.com. Hit me with an email and I will send you the free link to that project. Up until July is gonna be free. After July, it's gonna be about $8 for this project. I gotta make some type of money because I'm not going through the DSPs at the moment. And I need to, really, 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 really get my message through this music out there. So I appreciate you guys for listening. I appreciate every ounce of support that you guys give me. Again, this has been another episode of O from my lad, y'all. Yeah.